Hello everyone, this is Ms. Smith, and the purpose of this video is to discuss MLA format. We want to try to make sure that we have a working knowledge and an understanding of how to use MLA format and the resources that are available to us. We do have an MLA quiz, so what we cover in this video will be very useful. So what is MLA format? MLA is an acronym for Modern Language Association. MLA is a format that helps you document information that you use from another source and give credit to the originator of the information. So in academia, in higher education, as a student, chances are at one point or another while you're in college, you will have to use information from another source. Maybe you will be in an English class that's more of a composition class that will require you to use information that you've researched. Well, that research comes from knowledge and information that someone else created. And when you use that information, you are responsible and required to give proper documentation, to give credit to the originator of that source, to the individual or individuals who produced that information. If you don't, then you risk what we call plagiarism, and plagiarism is a form of cheating. And so MLA format helps us to be sure that we properly document information that we use from another source so that we can be very clear about information that we've created and information that we've used from somewhere else that we did not create. And so MLA format is one of several academic citation and documentation styles. There's APA, there are a variety of other types of documentation styles. But MLA is widely used in the humanities, especially in writing, language, and literature courses. So again, we need MLA so that we can properly document and cite information, so that the reader understands what information came from us and what information came from other sources. Now, in the English 160 class, you do not have an assignment this semester where you have to do extensive research that would require that you use information from another source. But you still are responsible for knowing how to use MLA format. So that's why we're covering it this semester, so that you're familiar with it. So there are two main components of MLA that I want you to know about. And this video simplifies the entire concept. But I just want you to know about these two main components. We have the full citation and then we have the in-text citation. The full citation appears on the works cited or references page. This is the full citation where every part of that documentation format is listed out. Okay? So if you are looking to cite a book that you have read for a project that you're doing, there's a specific way that you cite a book. And you want to make sure that you filled in all the required pieces and parts of that citation to have that full citation that would appear on the works cited or the references page. And typically that works cited or references page goes at the end of whatever you're doing, whether it's a report or an essay or some other project. And then the second thing is the in-text citation. Now the in-text citation is simply an abbreviation of the full citation. The in-text citation does not appear on the works cited or references page. Instead, the in-text citation goes within your report or within your essay, and it appears at the end of the sentence wherever you've used information from that source. So again, let's say I have this book that I'm reading and I want to use information from that book in one of my paragraphs. At the end of the sentence where I've used information, right, whether it's a direct quote and I've put quotation marks around it, whether I've put it in my own words and paraphrased it, when I've used information from that other source, what I want to do is put an in-text citation at the end of the sentence. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a little bit. But the in-text citation, I want you to make sure you remember that it is simply an abbreviation of the full citation. So those are the two main components, the full citation and then the in-text citation. So this week in our content, I've given you some MLA resources. There is a link to the Purdue OWL Formatting and Style Guide. Purdue University is the leading global source for MLA formatting, and they have what they call an online writing lab, or their OWL. And on that OWL, you can always see the current updated MLA information. So that's just a good resource to know that's there. I've also included some videos that will further explain in-text citation and works cited pages in MLA format. I will point out though that your book will be a great resource, and so if you haven't done this already, go ahead and pull out your book. You can pause the video now if you need to, but there are going to be some things I'm going to point out to you in our textbook that will help you in your quiz. Okay, so now let's look at MLA Works Cited. So your reference page is the same thing as your works cited page. Okay, again, your works cited page should contain your full citation for your source. Okay, so let's look at the example down here in bold. Let's say that you want to cite an article that you've read about penguins. Let's say you have information in this article that you want to use in something that you're doing for school. And so the proper way to cite that according to MLA format, specifically for an article that's an electronic article, would be to put the last name, such as Jones, comma, the first name, and period. Okay? Then after that, what we have here in italics is the actual name of the article written by this person. Okay? Finding a better habitat for penguins, period. Then here, Penguins of North America, that is the name of the publication, or the magazine, or the journal, or the online journal where that article appears. Here we have the date that it was published, and then the form that it's in. It's a web form. It's an electronic form. If it were a hard copy magazine or a newspaper of some sort, then it would, instead of reading web, it would read print. Okay, I'm going to put a period there, and this date is the date that it was accessed. So this might be the date, for example, that you might have viewed the article, and that's what you want to include to wrap up the citation. So your full citation acts almost as a code that your reader should be able to go through this and go back to your source that you used and look at the source for him or herself. That's the goal of it, and that's why it's so meticulous. I'll be honest with you, MLA format is aggravating. It's annoying, and it's only that way because it's so very tedious. You're expected to put the comma in the right place and the period in the right place, to italicize what needs to be italicized, and to include all information, or definitely as much as you have. Okay? And so that's our works cited page. On the works cited page, you put the full citation. Now, let's go to our textbook, because our textbook will be what you use for your quiz, okay? And so make sure that when you're taking your MLA quiz that you have your textbook ready. So go ahead and turn to page 355 in your textbook. And again, if you need to pause for a second to catch up with me, please pause the video and come right back. But page 355 begins your section on documenting sources. So a couple of pages in, let's turn over to page 358. That's where we begin the samples of entries in MLA form, okay? And these again are examples of full citations. So these would be examples of things that would appear on the works cited page or the references page. So we're at the bottom now of page 358. And if you look at that, do you see where it says book by one author at the very bottom? And so that's giving you the format that you need to use to cite something if it is a book by one author. Now be mindful, especially during your quiz, that you're not looking at the APA entry. Do you see that? That's the second one listed there. You're using MLA. So make sure that you use MLA as your guide. So let's just go over this one really quickly. So what we have here, you see where it says Spinello, comma, Richard, period. So of course, that's the name of the author. Cyber ethics, morality and law in cyberspace. That's italicized. So what is that? If you said that that's the title, then you're correct. Okay? Burlington, in this case, is the city, okay? The city of the publishing company. And Jones and Bartlett, that's the name of the publishing company. Then we have a comma, and 2013 is the year that it was published. And then at the end, we have print. So in the example I showed you a moment ago, that was not how you would cite a book by one author. That was an electronic citation, okay, for an article. And so that's another thing about MLA. There are different categories, numerous categories for how you cite different types of information. And so you always want to make sure that you're using the right category to cite what it is you need, okay? And so why don't we do this now, since we're talking about these citations and since we're on this page. I want you to put a check mark or a star beside some of the categories in the book. I'm going to tell you which ones in just a second. And these are the categories that I want you to use, right, for your MLA quiz. You're going to figure out which one you need for each question of the quiz, okay? So I'm kind of giving you a hint here so you don't have to go through and search for them too long. So put a star beside book by one author at the bottom of page 358. You'll need that. At some point on your quiz, you'll have to do a citation for a book by one author, and you'll need that one. If you'll turn over to page 362, at the bottom of 362, there is an article in an online newspaper or magazine, okay? And in that one, you're going to want to star that. You're going to need that one, okay? Article in an online newspaper or magazine. And use the example that they give you to help you figure out what you need to do. Now, some things are italicized in some categories, some things are not italicized in others, which is why you need to know the category, okay? The category will tell you exactly how you need to put information in for that particular category. And so bottom of 362, star article in an online newspaper or magazine. On page 363, put a star beside website, okay? Your quiz will require that you create a citation for a website. On page 364, put a star beside personal interview. And in the example that they give for personal interview on page 364, you'll notice that it says email interview. I'll go ahead and tell you that in the quiz, or on the quiz, it's asking about a personal interview. So instead of putting in email interview like they do in the example in the book, just write personal interview, okay? Instead of doing email interview like they do in the book, put personal interview, because the question I'll ask you on the quiz is about a personal interview. The rest of it, follow it, okay? Use that as a guide. And then finally, on page 365, put a star beside motion picture. Your quiz will ask you a question about a motion picture, and it will want you to create a citation for it, okay? By the way, on page 365 under motion picture, under that category, where it says DIR in the MLA citation there, that stands for director, okay? And Healthcare Videos is the name of the production company, okay? And you'll notice that, of course, there's not print or web at the end of that citation. It's DVD, because that's the form that it's in. So just make sure that you've put a star or a check mark beside those items in your book, because you will need them for the quiz. It'll just make your life a little bit easier so you don't have to search through and figure out which entries that you need, which categories you need. Okay? So now let's talk about in-text citations. Your in-text citation, as I said before, should appear in your report wherever you use information from a source, right? From that source. And so your in-text citation should be the first word or first few words of your full citation. In other words, however your full citation begins, that's what you want to be your in-text citation. So here, if we're looking at our example that we looked at a few moments ago, Jones, comma, Sarah, period, finding a better habitat for penguins, blah, 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 right? We looked at that one earlier. And so the correct in-text citation would be Jones or Jones, comma, Sarah. For your in-text citation, remember it goes at the end of the sentence where you've used information from the source in your report or in your essay. And so you want to make sure that you put parentheses around it. Okay? Your in-text citation should have parentheses around it. Now, this full citation begins with the word Jones, right? And so that means your in-text citation should begin with the word Jones. When your reader looks at an in-text citation, he or she should be able to go to your works cited page and find a full citation that begins the same exact way your in-text citation begins. Okay? So when they see your in-text citation in your report or your essay, your reader should be able to then go to your works cited page and see a full citation that begins the same exact way that your in-text citation begins. And so if you have a full citation that begins with an article, such as the word the, a, an, right? You probably want to go a few words in, right? So use the first few words of the citation. But typically if it's like a last name or a title that begins the full citation, then you can just use that as your in-text citation. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense, but if you have questions about that, let me know. Now, it would not be correct, if we go back to this example, to use finding a better habitat for penguins as your in-text citation. It would not be correct to put Penguins of North America Journal as your in-text citation. Because if we see this in your essay or in your report, and we go back to your works cited page, we won't find any citation that begins this way. We would find one that begins Jones, and this information, or these two pieces of information, are in there, but it doesn't begin it. And so you want your in-text citation to always be however your full citation begins. Okay? So hopefully that has cleared that up for you. One last thing I will point out. You want to make sure that you carefully review the OC Tech plagiarism policy. The good news is it's not a long policy. It literally is one page long, and it has been posted to your home page on D2L since the beginning of the semester. So make sure that you click on it. I may test your knowledge on it at some point this semester, and you want to make sure that you at least have read through it and that you're familiar with what we consider plagiarism and what the sanctions are should you be guilty of plagiarism. Okay? That's really, really important to know. So hopefully this video has been helpful, but as I said, if you have questions, please contact me before you take your quiz, and I would be happy to walk you through your questions and help you to find the answers that you need. Okay? Thanks so much.